I'd like to thank Jim and Pat for inviting us back again to speak this year. Um, and it's really a hard act to follow. We have some incredible presentations. Both Harry and I, our heads are kind of spinning, thinking about post-go live things that we haven't even taken into account yet. But thank you for your presentations. Most of us work for utility, and utilities always have a safety message. So I'm going to have a safety message today. We're going to go over a quick overview of our company, talk about our AUD implementation update, and feedback on the implementation process. I know some people are thinking about going with AUD, and I thought it'd be good just to give you our feelings and what we found so far, both with SBS and the vendors we've worked with. And then Harry Canaday is going to do a demo of our latest build. But first of all, let's talk about a safety message. And I kind of stole this from one of our roadshow presentations. It sounds like a lot of you go through the roadshows and present things to your folks, and I thought this was relevant even for today. Automated external defibrillator. Do you know where it's located? Do you know how it works? How many lives it saves per year? And to start with, I'm going to assign Pat Reed, if he's looking at me. Pat's not paying attention. Pat, I'm going to assign you this task. If we were to have a medical emergency sometime today and we needed a defibrillator, I'm going to task you with finding it for us.
I have 3 of my Eagle Scouts who are CPR certified here that now work for SBS because I'm 64.
And Molly, if we need 911, can you make that call? Just out of curiosity, does anyone know where the defibrillator is in this building? Any guesses? It's not in this room. It's not in the hallway. Maybe it's in the gym? Nope. Swimming pool? No. Front desk? They might have it. They don't have it. So I went and asked them about this. We went through the whole building. They go, we know we have one. Made it to the general manager? No. They're not required by law to carry one here. So Molly, you're much more important now, and Pat, because you're going to be providing CPR if need be. I don't know if you've ever been through a safety first aid class, but typically if you open one of those up, it has instructions on how to use it, and it will even talk to you. And I did look up on the internet. It saves about 1,700 lives per year. So I just wanted to pass that on to y'all, and I thought it was very relevant for today. And just as a side note, when I was going through this and saw this message for the first time, I was about to present at a roadshow, and I have AUD loaded up, ready to talk to everybody about it. And the gentleman presenting the safety message goes, "All right, where's the AED?" And I started thinking, wow, AED sounds a lot like AUD. So it kind of threw me for a second. So SBS, I have a new tagline for you. You ready? Oops, I messed up. AUD is the AED to help bring your design organization back to life. So I expect royalties for that, or maybe at least put it on a cup for me, or a T-shirt. All right. Now we've gone past the safety message and joke. A little bit about our company. Corporate headquarters is Richmond, Virginia. 2.7 million electric customers, 99% smart meters, 60,000 miles of electric distribution lines. Our current design tools and EAM tools are ArcFM Designer by Schneider Electric and Work Manager by CGI. Our future design EAM tools are AUD and SAP. More about SAP later. We have 600 licenses, both for our Dominion Energy designers and for our design vendors. If you're looking for a breakdown, it's probably 400 for Dominion Energy and 200 for vendors. To get a feel for our electric distribution implementation for AUD, 35 offices both in Virginia and in North Carolina. We even have a privatization group that is on the military bases, 9 locations in Virginia, South Carolina, and Texas, and Pennsylvania as well. We take care of their design needs and their construction needs as well. They're going to be going to AUD. We have 3 members assigned specifically to support AUD. Harry and I are here today. Gary Norman might be listening in. If you are, thank you for staying behind and holding down the fort. But these are the 3 assigned permanent positions for AUD. And after being here, we think we might need more, especially post go live. In addition to us 3, we have 19 more team members, a total of 20. And they range from designers to specialists to even a design supervisor and instructors. And they're attending a lot of these meetings. They're learning the tool. They're contributing to the different things that they see that we need to incorporate. There's also a team of 11 that's made up by IT, our standards, our engineering group, and GIS services. And so it's about 33 people, and maybe a handful more that may have missed along the way. But it is a large team, and it is a big implementation. So now I've told you a little bit about us and where we're at. I want to talk about our timeline and where we are. Last year, a week before PUG last year, we went to knowledge transfer. Then we came to PUG. We learned so much last year and loved it. And I want to let you know what we've been doing. We haven't been sitting on our hands for the past year. So model building spreadsheets and meetings. If you've been through AED before, you know that can be a daunting task. We have 9,000 CUs and MUs, all kinds of models, and we are still tweaking these spreadsheets a year later. CAD block updates and meetings. We thought we had a good handle on all of our CAD blocks, but they needed a lot of work, and we had to add a lot more in there. Harry and Gary have been really working hard on that, and I think Harry's going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. OTS, over-the-shoulder meetings, virtual and on-site. What you see in front of you is a snapshot of our last meeting in Richmond. It was well attended. Typically, the virtual meetings, SBS was nice enough to schedule those for 12 o'clock every day, 3 to 4 times a week. So it really disrupted our day. Thank you very much. We've also been having EAM meetings, both for Work Manager and SAP, because we're eventually going to go to SAP. UDH GIS meetings, engineering calculation meetings, AUD build testing, writing scripts and having meetings regarding SIT. Basically, our whole life has become one large meeting. And luckily, after work, we get homework to do from the meetings. Our day never stops. But it is rewarding. It's tiring. SIT. We are at the cusp of going into SIT. And if you look at those dates, you might go, they don't have enough time for SIT. We have probably less than a month. And it's going to be very challenging. We understand we might have to go into UAT with some, but we're really trying to get this application out to the field because they need it. And we want them to experience a good product. As I said earlier, we're ArcFM designer shop, and they're GIS designers. They're not really great with CAD. Some of them are very good, but for the most part, they're not. And Gary Norman created all these job aids and the content for our training center to create an LMS self-paced CAD class. And that's going to be assigned to all of our designers to take, and they'll have 1 to 2 months. We're trying to let them take it just prior to coming to class so they don't lose anything they've learned from it. Then we migrate over to UAT. We're hoping to have that complete by the 5th of December. And John, you're crazy, but we're going live on 12/9. just before Christmas, or not far from Christmas. But it doesn't stop there. Our AUD training, our first class is 12/16. Yes, a week before Christmas, and we're trying to get a class in before the end of the year. And we've targeted a group that does nothing but subdivision designs. So we know what we're getting into. We're going to bring all of them into the room. It's probably going to be a larger class than what we normally have, but we've targeted for the 16th if things go well. It's going to be a 4-day class. 3-day content is going to be on AUD. The 4th day, they're going to actually go into production and work on real jobs before they leave the AUD class. They're going to be working on real stuff. We do have 4 environments. Heard some people talking about that yesterday: production, development, QA, and training. The perfect model for us, we believe, is max 15 designers per class, 1 instructor, and 2 power users. I think we're going to, for our first class, we're going to have a lot of support in there. It's going to be a larger class than 15, but we're going to have a lot of instructors and people to make sure no one goes astray. We anticipate 30 total classes will cover all the people that need to be trained. We are training vendors as well, but we're not training all of them. We're going to bring probably 3 per company in, give them the training, and they're going to take it back to their folks to complete their training. And once trained in AUD, all new work must be done in AUD. And I know you're thinking, well, how are you going to make that happen? We already have the buy-in from our users. Leadership's going to help. Any project that gets checked, they're going to have to open it up in AUD to make sure it is an AUD project. We have the luxury of a slow rollout, a controlled deployment. Everyone's going to work in ArcFM Designer until they come to class. And once they come to class, they might have to finish up 1 or 2 things, but they're going to go right into AUD and continue to use that. And then in April, we hope to have the SpiderCalc integration complete. And then, believe it or not, they have scheduled on Easter weekend an SAP integration that we're all going to be involved with. And part of that integration, we're also going to have Locust View, and that's going to leverage the field being able to use see some of the work, update attributes, update the sketch, and in turn give it back to GIS so they can play and use, I think it's Connect, and post everything back to our GIS. So that's kind of a snapshot of our timeline and what we anticipate. Maybe next year I can tell you if it really happened. So while I have a captive audience, I figured I would do a wish list. And just keep in mind, we are still learning this tool. People may have already asked for this functionality. You may even know how to do it, and we just don't know it. So please have patience with us. And if you do know how to, handle something that we're struggling with, let us know. First of all, number 1, replace transfer tool. Love this tool. Great options, has all these things. But there are times when a like for like is not good enough for us. And causes a little bit of extra work. And maybe there's another way to do this, but for instance, reconductoring a large project, we have miles of reconductoring, and we always don't go back with the same conductor because we have greater load, and we want to increase the conductor size. LED streetlight conversions. We have a group that does nothing but streetlight conversion projects, anywhere from 50 to 100 lights at one time. And they're going from high pressure sodium to LED. So like for like is not going to work there. And we have a list of LED lights taller than me in this room of choices to pick from. Device changes. We're always, if we're replacing a recloser switch, especially underground or fuse, they have different configurations and sizes. I know that we're just looking to make it a little bit easier for them. Even just upgrading a transformer or a pole. I know you can set AUD rules and alerts to say that, hey, this needs to be upgraded, but it would just be nice if there was a potentially easier way to do an upgrade. I don't want to use the word window, a pop-up window, because Jim will get upset with me. But maybe if a form came open and you had CUs that you could pick from, but that's for another conversation. We're just looking for efficiency, improve efficiency for our designers. And if we'll have a chance for questions at the end, so you can give me some feedback on this. Number 2, tab activation. Jim and I talked a little bit about this, and I need to tell you later about the results. But we're used to working in a GIS application that has something called tab activation. If you select a feature on the map, all of a sudden your tabs switch over, because the premise is if I select something, I'm going to update an attribute, I'm going to move something around, I want to view attributes. And I've found when working in this, often I'm always going back over to click on feature information. So I don't know if that's something that can be done. Material editing. Are there efficient ways to add CUs to the map rather than going, or to your job, rather than going work location by work location? Can you copy paste things to different work locations? Just ways to do things more efficiently. Schematic one-line tool. SBS showed us a demo of this. I don't know if anyone's using this tool, but we're working on configurations for it. And it looked like from the demos, it creates kind of a geographic representation of a one line. And I was wondering if there's a possibility. I always think of ARC Schematics by Esri. They have a tool that allows you to use different layout options, a tree, a hierarchy, a segment, or node reduction. In this example, you've got a sketch in the middle that's a subdivision design. And to the right of that is a CAD one line that was created by hand. So it would look a little bit different than a geographic representation. Phase swap tool, a tool that allows the changing of phase for all features, conductors, devices, all the way down to the unit record level, almost like a mass attribute tool. Here's an example. This is a long tap that we have in our GIS. And if a designer needed to change it out from like A to B phase, it would be 125 features. Years ago, we went to the vendor and said, we need a more efficient way to do it. So currently our designers click on the point where the tap point is, and it says, you have 125 features. What phase you want to put it on? And they just choose the phase and hit OK, and it swaps everything. My only way I can think you can do that in AUD is to come in and select all the features associated with the phase swap, and maybe use a filter for transformers and slowly conquer. Work on transformers, work on conductors, secondaries, service points, and change the phase. So I'd love to hear if you have a solution, or if SBS thinks of anything later on. All right, feedback on our AUD implementation. I just wanted to show the team. I was hesitant to put this up there just because we're probably going to miss somebody. But this is the team that's been helping us, SBS and the vendors. And when we first were looking at going to a different design tool, we did a full background check on all the people that we're looking at. I mentioned this to Pat last year, and Pat said, yeah, I think it was more like a colonoscopy you gave us in rather than a background check. But one of the major problems that I guess leadership had was they were saying, this is a small company, 50 people. They rely on vendors to do all of their work. I'm concerned about that. So we had to talk them off the ledge on that. And I wanted to give you all our experience so far, not only with the SBS and the vendors. First of all, everyone we've worked with has been very professional, even Pat and Chuck. I don't even see Chuck here this morning. Been a joy to work with, responsive. When we find a problem, they jump all over it. I think they're finding problems before we do, and they're that responsive. They know your business. They're extremely knowledgeable. I don't know how many times, and currently we're going through this, we're working with a vendor, and we're trying to explain our business process to them and why we need something. And SBS is like, yeah, your utility, you need this. It makes perfect sense. We can configure it. And that is really refreshing to know. Available. Kyle's not here. He's I think in Washington State right now. We talk all the time. A couple weeks ago, we're on the phone at 10:30 at night, East Coast. It was probably 7:30 his time. Weekends, we're trading emails. They are available, and I really appreciate that. Personable. I think of SBS and the vendors as close coworkers. A great rapport. I can kid around with him. I can bump Chuck in the hallway, and he doesn't get angry. I can call him Chuck Reacher from the Reacher on Amazon because he reminds me of him to some degree, and he doesn't get upset. They're very passionate. This is what we experience. If they find a problem, they're jumping on it and helping us out with it. And I have to say they're highly configurable because AUD is highly configurable. So I had to throw that plug in there. So a question for y'all is, does this honeymoon ever end? Is Dominion going to be dust in the wind once we go live? From hearing you, it doesn't sound like it, but I don't think that's going to be the case, but I hope we continue with a good sit, UAT, and implementation. And, maybe next year we can come back and let you know how it went. So I'm going to pause for a minute, and I'm going to let Harry do a demo, and then we'll both take questions at the end.
All right, so give me a second to get this pulled up. May have been a little ambitious with my demo. Not always a good idea to try and do a live demo when our network is across the country. All right, so I just wanted to go over what our configuration is as of today, what we've worked on, what we've still got to do. A couple of talking points that I have based on some other utilities that presented this week and stuff that we're learning that we should, we're thinking that we need to implement ourselves or we need to include in our implementation. I'm going to start with our layout with the tabs and some of the decisions we made with model building and how we laid out items for designers to go through. We try to make it as simple as possible, searching things, defaulting things. I really like the flexibility of the model tabs and the search fields in here. It makes it a lot easier for designers to basically have a menu of items to pick through. In the tool that we use now, ArcFM, you've got to manually search for a CU if you want to add it graphically or non-graphically to any work location. So some of the choices we made, just splitting out devices, primary conductor, secondary, service lines, meters. This is all based on workflows that we have in place already. And we love that it's, the program is configurable around those workflows. We can easily make it accessible for designers so that they're not going into a process that's completely unfamiliar to them. It's a top-down build when they go to bring in electric facilities. They can start with their primary and work all the way down to a service. Another thing that we added in, don't know if you can tell from our map, we like to have annotations and all types of descriptions all over our lines and our drawings. We have some pretty strict standards, and believe it or not, we have standards on annotations and what needs to be annotated and how. So we actually did build in some custom annotations here. Do a call out, and this will actually give you different options. So you can do an annotation for the segment, which will give you the run length. You can do an annotation for the conductor, which will give you the conductor type, the number of conductors there, whether it's underground, overhead, the voltage, if it's primary or not. So I can add that one in. As you can see, I already had that one in there. Another thing that we're going to be adding in that I don't think is implemented, I just got all the drawings from our standards group, but is the detail callouts. We have a lot of manholes and underground switch cabinets that oftentimes the field requires dimensions and port configurations, and usually designers have to draw those for themselves in CAD or print them out, make a custom design, and then hand that off to the field separately. So having those details in there to just paste into your sketch and have that already packaged ready to go for the field is going to be really great for us. It's mainly with our manholes. I don't think we'll do anything with transformers, but it's mainly manholes, vaults, underground switches. Moving to our work locations here in our framing boxes. Previously, 90% of these CUs designers had to add in manually. It would be, you set your graphic item in GIS, be it a pole or a device, conductor, transform, whatever it is, and that CU gets populated in there, the work location gets generated. But then all of these CUs that you see right here, the designer would have to go in, manually type every single one of those, the quantity, add it to every work location. So you can kind of see how that process would get very slow, very tedious, especially if you're doing a really large job. You got 100 work locations. That's a lot of typing. So this tool will really improve our designers' design time here. I'm going to try and demo. Hopefully our network plays with it. Just placing a pole in line here. Yeah, we want that. And as you can see, it's gone and generated our pole, cross arm, the post insulators. It's given us tie wire for the conductor, transfer labor, everything that a designer needs to set a pole. Our workflow now, doing what I just did in one click, would take a designer probably 10 to 15 minutes to do that. So that alone is going to save us so much time. And I think our designers are very, very excited about that. It's going to speed up a lot of processes. It's going to be a new tool for them to learn CAD. Like John said, a lot of our designers are not familiar with a CAD environment. A lot of them are, but most of them are not. But fortunately, I think the way that the AUD UI and CAD functions in a design environment is very friendly to users learning. Another thing I wanted to go over is we have a grid system for our devices, and the SBS GIS team has worked with us to actually make a little call-out tool that goes to our grid reservation system, and we'll reserve a grid address for our GIS system right here. And once you do it, I saved this one here. It gives you a little validation. Every item that's in your work location, you can just go and hit the validation. It'll assign that grid. And then if you go over to your materials, you notice that everything there should have its grid assigned. I think I've on a filter, yeah. And everything's got its unique grid address, and it's all grouped by work location there. Another thing, I believe it was Hydro 1. I want to go into our GIS data. You guys were talking about how a lot of your GIS data was not sufficient when you bring it into AUD. So running into a designer spending a lot of time cleaning that up so they can start working an AUD. And I think initially we had some concerns on that, and I'm, hearing you guys say that now, realizing that's probably going to be an issue for us and something that we need to focus on. We are switching to utility network for our GIS system, probably in 2 years, which will be a lot more, it'll play a lot nicer with AUD and CAD system. So we're really looking forward to that. And right now we have, we're trying to work with our GIS team and SBS, capture as much of that AUD data as we can now, so that in the future, designers are not cleaning up GIS data when they import it into their AUD sketches constantly. That's going to be a big workflow change for us. Designers are used to, going into a job and just immediately start working, but it's something that, we're going to have to teach them to go in here and, okay, you've got to make sure that this feature that you just brought in is everything's connected here. Make sure that your models are set here. So that's I think will probably be one of the biggest workflow changes that we're going to have, and will probably be a pain point for us. And hearing you guys say that it's a pain point for you too makes me feel a little better that, we're not going to be the only ones going through it, but we'd love to talk to you guys about it and some of the things you're trying to do to alleviate that. That's really all I had. I didn't want to do too much crazy stuff in here because, like we said, we're still in the process of configuring the software. As you can see, some of our engineering calculations not finalized. It doesn't know what these guys are. But yeah, with that, I'll go ahead and open it up to questions and let John speak on anything if he has anything else.
I have one for you. So there are a lot of meetings on this, but you're also going to be live within a year. Are you finding the cost of the meetings now is less outweighing or increasing the benefit that you're getting by sticking to that tight timeline?
You can't get away from having the meetings themselves. And I may have not heard the entire question, or did I?
Yeah, because we have some customers who, well, let's just keep the meetings every 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And then they come up with a 3-year timeline, and they said, where's my timeline 3 years?
I would like a little bit more breathing room. We even asked Ryan, our project manager, hey, we've got plenty to do. We don't need to, can we just maybe have these once a week or twice a week rather than, 3 or 4 times a week? And that's as we get further into the application. So I think you just have to weigh what fits, as long as we're productive, because what we've learned is the more we do for y'all, the more you want us to do for you. We turn in our homework assignment, and then you give us 10 more things to do. And we need to drag our feet a little bit better so we have more breathing room.
I learned that from my wife. If I took out the one garbage, what do you mean there's 5 other cans? And the second...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was going to say, I think in the beginning we were very gung-ho about we can do 3-4 meetings a week. We can totally handle that. And then not realizing how much work that we actually needed to do to get ready to implement this project. Like John said, it's nothing that, you guys are overloading us. I think we bit off more than we could chew, thinking that we could handle all that at once.
But I think we've kept y'all busy as well.
We've tried to.
I've heard a couple comments from my side too. And then the other question, are you capturing metrics of your current design and process? Because there is GIS cleanup, but it's because you're getting more accurate designs because you're using more data in the design versus spreadsheets and whatever. So do you have metrics to compare your pre and your post go live?
I don't think we've looked at that at all yet. I do know that we're working on different attributes, like for pole heads. Every time we don't have a pole head record or pole top record in our GIS, and they're creating that this week. So when we feed something back to our GIS, the next person that touches that pole is going to have the record of every item in there. They've been hesitant to allow me to add more things to the GIS because they want to keep it fast and sleek. But it's a dance. Listen, we've got this tool. It's providing really good information. It's going to benefit us, make the designs better. We really need to pass and share this information back and forth.
Yeah, I'm sure Sergey would talk to you about engineering repository, because keep that data in a separate database from the GIS, but the digital twin it together. Thanks. Any other questions?
Great presentation. I love the detail, and I remember your presentation last year, so flash forward a year. Exciting to see where you're at with it. My question is around, and I may have missed this, your EAM integration. I know, according to the timelines, that integration to SAP is coming next year at some point. But what are you doing currently for this design? Where do the CUs go? How does it get passed? And then I guess, what are the plans for, how do you do that phased approach? So you're going to have, some designers producing bills of material here.
Right.
And then ultimately, moving around. It seems complicated. So I'm, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you could just touch on what your thoughts are on that.
It makes my head hurt to think about what we have to do. But we're going to continue to feed all our jobs when we go live with AUD through our work manager. They're going to create their own bill of material, go through their own life cycle. At some point, we're going to say, listen, you need to there's going to be deadlines before we go to SAP to stop work in our current work management system. We're hoping not to have an outage, but you're going to have self-contained work manager projects. And then when it gets close to cut over, the SAP team is going to take all of those projects that are out there, and we're going to do cleanup on ones that aren't needed any longer. But they're going to convert all of those over, and they're going to be waiting for us, in theory, on Monday or Tuesday after implementation. It's going to be tricky. We're going to have to give deadlines for people to stop working in the tool. We don't want to do a 2-week freeze like y'all did. So we're trying to avoid that. I don't know if I answered all your questions with that.
Yeah, initially when we started implementing AUD, the plan was to go live with SAP at the same time. We have since changed gears and now are integrating with our existing work manager, which Chuck and Jessica have been awesome switching over to working on that for us, which I think is actually a great idea, because implementing 2 brand new pieces of software to your design organization at the same time, not really a great idea, in my opinion.
They wanted to go live with SAP and AUD in August. And then there was a delay with SAP, and they were going, well, we do it in November. And then now the delay's in April. So SBS was very instrumental in talking about it. It's probably safer to go to your current work manager tool, get things working, and then go from there. They've been really good to work with.
I think the whole room is in shock that SAP slipped on a schedule.
So from the consulting side, I've been coming from a utilities AD GIS lead, and then on the consulting side, one of the things we talk a lot about in the requirements and the planning is the resource constraints on the utility personnel. There's so many things that we can't do because you're responsible for a lot of your model libraries and determining that and your standards and those things. And so we try to help emphasize the critical part of utility resources being involved in the project. I'm curious, what was that message well? Did you have a good understanding of that before you got into the project, and what would help you or help other utilities to understand how your internal involvement, how much resources are required for that? What would be beneficial, and what were maybe some gaps in that process?
You want to handle that, or you want me? We knew it was going to be a big endeavor, and we really got a lot of buy-in from our leadership. I spoke to SBS and a lot of y'all to find out the number of resources that we need. 3 people at the system level. There has never been 3 people at the system level to take care of ARC FM. We've needed more, but they knew that this was coming. I was able to give them information to say, in order for us to pull this off and implement it, we need at least 3. We might go back to the meeting and say we need 4 or 5. And everybody is hungry in our organization for a new design tool that's going to increase efficiency. And all the supervisors are that way, and managers, and they're willing to give whatever we need resource-wise to make this happen, which I really appreciate. And you don't find that often. And if you're looking at implementing, you probably need more people than what you think. And the people you do get often get transferred. Some lose interest. Some contribute more than others. So you have to take that into account as well.
I think one thing we didn't consider is the post-go live resources that we're going to need. We haven't really been thinking about that at all, and hearing some of the presentations this week, that's something that we need to focus on. So I think we're actually going to go back to our leadership and say, hey, we need to retain some of these resources once the project is live, and possibly get even some more to handle, all of the inevitable help tickets and items that will come up, while we still need to do things like implement other portions of the project.
Whether it's permanent help or temporarily reassign someone.
Hey guys, Alyssa with Power Engineers, formerly with SPIDA Software. I'm a little curious about your plans for your SPIDA integration, maybe how you're envisioning that working. Are you thinking you would send information from here over to SPIDA, run your analysis, and then potentially send that result back, or based on the analysis, just manually make changes? Just curious how you picture that working.
We're curious on how that's going to work as well. Do you want? Sure.
So typically with AUD, at least, we do have a module that'll do the integration. We'll push the polls, and we can push one poll or multiple polls to SPIDA, run the project, analyze the project in SPIDA, and then return back a pass-fail. The out-of-the-box system is just a pass-fail. So you'll get a pass-fail attribute on your poll, and it'll be green or red. You can use our symbology there to highlight it. And potentially we can get a percentage also. So if it fails, but you're at 76%, then it gives you an idea how to fix it.
You also get the hyperlink to the SPIDA Calc report. So that'll go out to a server or wherever. So you see that it's red, it's yellow, it's green. Here's where the report is telling you where it failed.
Yeah, to add on to that, we already have SPIDA implemented, and it replaced a lot of Excel engineering calculation tools that we had. But the plan is to, yes, AUD will perform basic calculations for guying, stuff like that, and then you push out your project to SPIDA, which will give you the poll loading, SAG, pass-fail stuff, and bring it back to you. Say, hey, these are the things that passed, these are things that failed, and here's why they failed. So make the necessary changes. That is the plan. But
so we get this question a lot, so I'm going to ask you. Do you run every poll of every design through SPIDA Calc, or do you, hey, let me check my standards using SPIDA Calc to validate my standards, and if the polls are within standard, I run it through SPIDA Calc that's going to say to me, yeah, the standards is still good. So is it every poll of every design, or if it's hey, this is a funky design, I need to run it through SPIDA Calc, and it's more of a standardization tool?
I think we're going to go more towards, funky issues. You've got a poll that has really heavy devices on it, or something that's non-standard. The expectation is that, our designers are not going to need to push a single poll out with 2 down guys on it. It's more so you've got a poll with 2 circuits and a device and several different guying options on it that, may not be something that is easily looked up in manuals or something. That's what you need to push to make sure you're passing the loading and everything.